this is what I posted on our Facebook group last week or 10 days ago, that starting this year, T-Mobile will start implementing new compliance fines for anyone that's sending spam. We haven't seen anyone get impacted by that yet, but if you were to send spam, you could. So before we actually get into it, let me step back a little bit and talk a little bit about A2P 10DLC. So the A2P 10DLC requirement kicked in last year, where before you can send a text message to any cell phone from a VoIP number, which is like REsimpli, or any online numbers that you buy, those are VoIP numbers. You have to make sure you're only sending messages to people that have opted in to receive those messages. In order to do that, you have to register for A2P 10DLC. You have to have your website, you have to have your company name, EIN number, and everything available. And then this is what, even on your website, you should have an opt-in language like this. So this is my website. It should have an opt-in language like this. Basically, the purpose of this is that anyone that you're sending text messages to has you've received a consent from them to send messages. How you do that is primarily through your website, that you have this language. By submitting this form, you consent to receive SMS messages and emails from Max House Buyer. This is built on REsimpli. If you're using REsimpli for your website hosting, this is already comes right out of the gate, so you don't have to worry about anything. But it's important that you have that. If you do not have that, your A2P 10DLC will not get approved. And if it's not approved, you're not able to send text messages. This is not something that we are preventing or we are blocking. This is something that the Twilios will not let you send any text messages unless you're approved for A2P 10DLC. In order to get approved, you need a company. You need to be registered as a company. You need to have EIN number, and you need to have your website. And your website, if you have Max House Buyer and you're submitting your website, then your email address that's associated with your business should match the company name. So for example, if I'm submitting my A2P 10DLC, my website is Max House Buyer, I cannot use sharad@gmail.com as my email address. It should be ending in maxhousebuyer.com. Adam, you have a question?
Yeah, real quick. I'm approved for the 10 DLC, thankfully, but as we add additional phone numbers into the system, what is the expected lead time for approval from Twilio? Because what I'm thinking is, should we start to plan like buying numbers for the future right now, since it seems to be like, what I'm thinking is like a 4 to 6 week process, right? Because
not with new numbers. Not with new numbers. Once you're approved for A2P 10DLC, any new numbers that you buy, those should be linked in 24 to 48 hours. However, just last couple of weeks, or I would say last month or so, there was a little bit of delay just because of holidays. And this was something Twilio had already emailed us. There were certain things they were not doing over the holidays. But if you're approved for A2P 10DLC, you buy a new number, then I would say no more than 24 to 48 hours. Most of them happen within an hour, but the expectation that Twilio is setting for us and what we're setting for our customers is that expected to take 24 to 48 hours. If it's taken longer than that, let us know. Then that's an exception. Then we'll reach out to Twilio and find out why that happened. But it should be pretty instant.
Can I let you know right now? I raised this issue to your team. I believe we purchased a couple of numbers more than 2 weeks ago now that have yet to be approved. I understand that you said the holidays, but nonetheless, maybe we should tell me what I should do to follow up on that number.
So do me a favor. I'm gonna put email in the chat. So send me an email right here, and I'll check with our team and see what might be going on, and then we'll raise a ticket with Twilio on that. Again, it may have been a little bit of delay in last couple of weeks just because of holidays, but send me an email, send me the number and your email address that you have with REsimpli, and we'll check and see what might be going on.
And then do you guys, last question, I know you have a process here, but I really appreciate you taking the time. Do you still expect the Whisper and the Barge feature to be implemented by the end of this month?
Yes, should be.
All right, thank you.
The Whisper, the call listening, call monitoring, Barge, and also call transfer, those should all be coming this month. We're already working on it. Yeah. I talked to my team this morning. So yeah, we expect those to come out this month.
Thanks.
Sure. Yeah, this is what I posted on. So anyway, so talking about going back to A2P 10DLC. So before you can send any text messages, you need to be approved for A2P 10DLC. If you're not approved, then there's nothing we can do. If you don't have your EIN number, in some cases, what happens is once you submit your registration, first your company needs to be approved, which is at the brand level, your company. And if sometimes what happens is if it's a new EIN number, you haven't been in business long enough, then you also need to submit your EIN documentation, which happens, I would say about 30-40% of the times, where you will be asked to send your EIN, proof of EIN from IRS. So that's very important. Make sure you have it. If you submit ahead of time with your registration, makes the process much faster, so we don't have to come back to you. But make sure you have the EIN documentation, your company registration, and if you're doing DBA, then you have some way from state or your local government to prove that it's your DBA, and then everything is linked back to your EIN. Again, it's not a requirement from us. It's a requirement from the carriers, T-Mobile, AT&T, and Verizon, which we're passing on to you guys. So make sure it's very important. Once you're approved for A2P 10DLC, the important thing to keep in mind is when we're submitting your A2P 10DLC, it's for a specific use case. In our case, for a real estate investor, it would be you want to follow up with owners of these properties about properties that they have to sell. So looking at an extreme case, you don't want to be sending messages to these people about, for example, let's say, you have a car that you want to buy from them, or you have a car that you want to sell from them. That's an extreme example where if you're getting approved for a use case of following up with the leads, that you're not using it for a totally different use case. And even within the use case, if you're approved to follow up with the leads that you have, you want to make sure that you're using it for follow-up and not for prospecting. So I want to be very clear. Your prospecting part of the business is where you are reaching out to these prospects, the list of motivated sellers that you have that have not expressed any interest. So that's your marketing side of the business. What REsimpli does it helps you on the lead follow-up, meaning the people that you're sending text messages to, these people have already reached out to you, initiated the contact to you, and you have the consent to send them text message. So very, very important to keep that in mind. If you are approved for our A2P 10DLC approval process is for lead follow-up. We will not block you if you're sending someone prospecting messages. You load them up in our system and start sending them messages. Hey, are you interested in selling your property? That you're just cold texting them. We will not block you, but keep in mind that will definitely affect the trust score that you have with the carrier if you're sending spam messages. And then going into that, this is kind of what I had shared, this image, that the more texting that you're doing, and if you're doing spam, that you could start getting fined by T-Mobile. This is T-Mobile, and I expect other carriers to do the same thing as if you're sending spam. Now, we don't have any example of this happen with a particular user, but spam is a very broad language. Again, if you're sending text messages to someone without their consent, I think it falls within the spam category. So you want to be careful. If you're sending it to a T-Mobile customer and you and your T-Mobile customers start opting out a lot of your messages, start replying stop, then that triggers your company registration to T-Mobile and tells them that you're sending a lot of spam messages. That's why a lot of their customers are opting out from receiving your messages. So you want to be very mindful of that the messages that you're sending, you're being very careful about only sending messages that falls within the use case.